Federal High Court Abuja sentences Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment.
President Tinubu directs Minister of State for Defense to relocate to Kebbi over abduction of schoolgirls.
APC Governors Forum reaffirms government commitment to safe rescue of abducted MAGA schoolgirls.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on prevention and management of stroke.
Well, a stroke happens when the brain stops getting the blood that it needs. It could be through clogged vessels or through bleeding. And when that happens, every second counts. Yenri.
Well said, Victor. And in addition, stroke occurs when blood stops flowing to a part of your brain. It can affect things like speech and movement, while recovery is long and healing is slow.
And so to prevent a stroke, it is advisable to manage high blood pressure, control cholesterol and diabetes, eat a healthy diet, and exercise regularly while avoiding smoking and limiting alcohol consumption.
Indeed, these lifestyle changes highlighted by Victor and medical management, in addition to maintaining a healthy weight and prioritizing good sleep, can significantly lower risk of stroke.
Now, managing a stroke patient involves immediate medical attention, clinical monitoring, and comprehensive rehabilitation.
Now, key aspects of managing a stroke patient include neurological assessments, airway and vital sign monitoring, blood pressure, and temperature control.
Now, the long-term management focuses on rehabilitation for speech, physical movement, and daily activities alongside emotional support and proper positioning. And just to say, this resonates because only recently I lost a relative to stroke.
Sorry about
you
that.
could see all of those signs, the stages, and how it eventually came to, his untimely passing. Well, let's welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, the last for this week. I'm Victor, as well, thank you for joining us.
All right, so I'm sure you want to stay with us to get all the details of a stroke and how to stay away from it. I'm Ian Ray John. Thank you for joining us this Friday. We're live on the network service of the NTA, and this is our headquarters in Abuja. In the course of the program, we'll bring you news paper review. But for now, let's have the morning news. And Ibrahim Dan Hamidou is our guide. Ibrahim, good morning to you.
Hello, Victor and Yenri. Good morning. Here's the news. The leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment for engaging in acts of terrorism. Justice James Omotosho gave the verdict in the absence of the convict, who was led out of the court for disrupting proceedings through his unruly behavior.
Today, God has brought an end to injustice, oppression, suffered by our brothers and sisters of the eastern states of Nigeria. They will not be able to sleep with their two eyes closed.
The verdict is not consistent with the evidence laid before the court. The sentence is overbroad, cruel, and unusual.
President Bola Tinubu has asked the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Mutawale, to relocate to Kebbi State over the abduction of 24 schoolgirls in the state. Mutawale, who was formerly governor of Zamfara State, was asked to remain in the state to monitor security efforts to secure the release of the abducted students. Mutawale gained some experience in dealing with banditry and mass kidnapping during his tenure as governor of Zamfara State from 2019 to 2023. President Tinubu had postponed his scheduled trip to Johannesburg, South Africa, and Luanda, Angola, as he awaited further security briefings on the kidnapped Kebbi schoolgirls and the attack on Christ Apostolic Church worshippers in Eruku, Kwara State. In a strong show of solidarity and national concern, governors from the All Progressives Congress (APC) have visited Kebbi State to sympathize with the government and people over the abduction of students from Government Comprehensive Secondary School, Maga. Delegation led by Chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum and Imo State Governor Senator Hope Uzodinma reaffirmed the collective resolve of Nigeria's leaders to ensure the safe rescue of the schoolgirls.
Is you behind Mr. President in unity to do whatever it will take to strengthen security in Nigeria, ensure that our democracy is sustained.
Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak has visited Eruku in Ekiti local government area of the state to sympathize with the people following Tuesday's bandit attacks. The governor reiterated his administration's commitment to ending banditry and kidnapping in all parts of the state.
Our main purpose here is to commiserate with you and the community and to see how much more help we can render here. All the security agencies are on this. The president had to cancel his trip to G20 for the G20 meeting in South Africa because of this incident.
Vice President Kashim Shettima has commended the multi-million-dollar investment portfolio by African agribusiness conglomerate, Export Trading Group in Nigeria, assuring that ongoing reforms by the administration of President Tinubu will guarantee the company's investments. The Vice President said the company's interests across agro-logistics, fertilizer systems, seed production and industrial processing, among others, is commendable and fully aligns with the renewed hope agenda of President Tinubu. The federal government is urging independent broadcasters, editors, producers, and content creators to continue to be indispensable to the task of building a Nigeria where facts prevail over falsehood, citizens are informed rather than misled, and where public trust is strengthened rather than eroded. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, took this message to the 2025 Annual Conference of the Independent Broadcaster Association of Nigeria, IBAN.
Accurately, to also report and not to say things that are sensational. Invest in newsroom capacity to detect and counter deepfakes, AI-generated misinformation, and online propaganda.
And those are the news highlights. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Yenre and Victor after these messages.
The Renewed Hope Initiative RHI presents the RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow. This national competition is in 3 categories. The household category is a tree planting competition amongst 11 frontline states in northern Nigeria. Each participating household in Adamawa, Borno, Bauchi, Gombe, Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, Yobe, and Zamfara states will plant a minimum of 1 tree to qualify, with a video evidence of before and after the tree planting exercise. 20 million naira would be awarded to the best household. Submission deadline is 20th December 2026. Community category will see local governments, local communities, schools, and NGOs reclaim and transform degraded or abandoned areas such as dump sites, landfills, parks, and their likes into green, vibrant gardens, parks, and eco-friendly spaces. 50 million naira would be awarded to the overall best community group. Deadline for submission is 15th July 2026. State category will have all states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, excluding Enugu State, have a chance to address the growing threats to environmental sustainability and cleanliness. States will be judged based on the number of trees planted on major roads and inner streets and how clean they are. 100 million naira will be awarded to the best performing state. Already, Enugu State has 100 million naira for being RHI's model green state due to its greenery and cleanliness. Video evidence must be submitted by participating states on or before 20th December 2026. All entries must be directed to RHI Office, State House, Abuja, or email rhi.greenchallenge@statehouse.gov.ng. RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow.
Progress no dey happen just like that. It dey come from support when you need am.
Mommy, I got the school fees. You too much.
Na money point oh.
Money point, thank you.
Customer, na transfer abi? Confirm.
Bro, na transfer.
Na money point oga. Oh, na confirm.
Progress na peace of mind when you know say payment go land as Sure Banker. Progress na small wind where they carry person go far.
No worry, yourself go make am. Mo go Bible.
Victor, even you they use money point?
Of course now, they use money point.
Confirm.
Money Point, made for your progress.
Give more strength to your hair with Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener. It's infused with nourishing oils and conditioning proteins, so you can say goodbye to hair breakage. Wow! Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener.
And the National Productivity Order of Merit Award goes to...
The only tomato paste manufacturer to win the National Productivity Order of Merit Award by the Federal Government of Nigeria, endorsed by the Association of Private Medical Practitioners of Nigeria. This is an evidence of 100% natural goodness. Eat healthy to live longer. Buy now and enjoy up to 20% discount.
Tomato paste, the taste of Nigeria.
Break time is the right time to re-energize. It's that break time energy that helps keep your champ in the game.
Milo, energy to go further.
Milo!
Power Oil Light. Light enough for movement. Real enough for taste. Power Oil. My choice for my family. They always come back for seconds. I know why. Power Oil. My choice for my family.
Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja. The city is moving. New voices, heavy drip, all heart. From the streets to the stage, this is the next Afrobeat star.
Yo! What are we here for? Let's Afrobeat star! Let's get nasty!
And the talents from all over showed up to own the room. But they're not alone.
Spiritual. Gospel.
All chasing a slot to face the judges. Puffy T, SARS, Andre Vibes, P Pride. Catch next Afrobeat star on
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All right, we thank you very much for joining us or staying with us, by the way, and time for newspaper review now. Yokoli Ubaja, newspaper reviewer, is right here. He's been saying some things in my ears. I don't know if to say they are sweet or not.
Those things were not studio talk. Please, can we concentrate on this?
Somebody said they were sweet muffins.
Yeah, Ray, how are you doing?
Very well, Chukwudi. Good to see you.
Wonderful woman. And how's Mr. John himself doing?
Great.
Oh boy, how you doing?
Mr. Azu is doing well, thank you.
By his grace.
Yeah, Ray, let's go.
All right, let's begin with the Nation newspaper. The Nation leads with fireworks in U.S. Congress over Nigeria's insecurity. Lawmakers plate on religious labeling of insurgency. That's the lead story here. Above that, Nnamdi Kanu gets life sentence for terrorism. IPOB chief found guilty on all 7 counts. All right, above that story, above the masthead, okay, I think we'll look below the front page of the Nation newspaper now. We have Tinubu sent Metawale to Kebbi, 900 troops to Kwara. That's on page 4. DSS files terrorism charges against 9 IPOB commanders linked to Simon Ekpa. You can find that on page 4. Wolawar's grandson, Olusegun, dies at 62. Details on page 4. And finally, Lagos allocates 245 billion naira bonds to critical infrastructure. You can find all of these in the Nation. Let's see the Daily Sun now. The Daily Sun says family group kick as Nnamdi Kanu gets life imprisonment. The riders convicted on all 7 counts will appeal judgment, says legal consultant. Southeast expected the sentencing. That's according to Abaribe. All hope not lost, Reps Deputy Speaker. All right, that's on pages 5 and 6. Above that, insecurity. Senate vows to restore normalcy in Southeast. Leaders demand end to open grazing. And just beside the masthead this morning, on the front page of the Daily Sun, Kwara shut schools in 5 local government areas over bandits attacks. Afenifere expresses shock over terrorist attacks. That's on page 26. And below the picture story, 2 in 3 Nigerian children live in multi-dimensional poverty. That's according to UNICEF. Nigeria, really disgraced nation overwhelmed by insecurity. Peter Obi. All right, let's move away from that. Schoolgirls abduction. Tinubu orders Matawale to relocate to Kebbi. That's also right here. And APC governors seek urgent rescue. Finally, moves by international actors, interest groups to label Nigeria country of religious intolerance troubling. That's according to the federal government. All right, Victor.
All right, thank you, Ian Ray. And I have a blueprint here. Just above the nameplate, Lassa fever deaths hit 177 as Nigeria records rise in new infections. That's according to the NCDC, rather, and it's on page 12. Elsewhere, resident doctors refute Labour Ministry's claims of progress, insist strike continues. You find details of that on page 10. And a screaming headline here, terrorists kill Christians and Muslims in Nigeria. That's credited to the Pope. No genocide in Benue, says Governor Alia. All right, and FCTA goes after R of O, C of O defaulters next week. All right, most of the rest I think have been taken in the other dailies, but Chukwudi Okolubaja, perhaps you want to take a shot at this.
That's your
genocide claim.
That's your house in nature. I hope you have CFO for it. Genocide claim. Let's start from the Pope's statement. You know, he spoke on Tuesday, really. You know, the Nigerian situation sometimes blackmails you. Some of us who are Christians who tell you, please do not give this thing a religious coloration. We get blackmailed. We get told, oh, stop that nonsense on social media, you're abused and all that. But you've got to say things the way they are. Let's go back to when actually there was a seeming religious tone to it. How did they start? You remember 2011? Madala, Jos, Damaturu, Gadaka or whatever, Christmas Day bombings. They started like that. But after moderate Muslims did not join them, because, come to think of it, you're talking about a handful of people trying to lord themselves over moderate Muslims who want to live with their neighbor, whatever their faith is. That is, you have to historically follow this thing. So when we say, please don't say it's Muslims and all that, yes, when they started, they wanted to make it Muslims against Christians. But the generality of Muslims were not fooled. And they got annoyed with those Muslims who did not join them. That was what happened. So I'm not surprised that the Pope is loaning his voice to this. People want to go, to go about this thing with sentiment and all that, would not arrive at accurate conclusions. But at the end of the day, what we're saying is every life is sacrosanct. It's unfortunate but that in Nigeria we talk about a Muslim life and a Christian life. You talk about a Yoruba man and a Hausa man. Those are indications of societies that are still evolving to standards that are respected in humanity. We need to get out from that. When a bomb happens in a mosque, let Christians and Muslims join hands to even rebuild that mosque. Didn't the Muslims in Egypt do it when the Coptic Christians church was brought down? Muslims went and rebuilt it. You know, when Nigerians talk, they do not loan you credibility as somebody who also listens to things that happen in other parts of the world. And that's where the likes of me become stubborn. Please, every life is important. Let's safeguard them. Let's put an end to terrorism. But let's try to be dispassionate when we talk. Because sometimes you find out you're pouring kerosene into an inferno. You're going to make it a conflagration. I think we need to tune our minds to that properly. Kano, the sentencing has happened yesterday. Of course, it throws up many questions. The person I want to listen to, I've listened to the man who was NEC chairman, Amadi. I've seen what Abaribe has there. I've seen, but he's the deputy Senate, the deputy representative, House of Representatives speaker, that I want to dwell more in what he said. Because when you get to a place, a point in life, and you don't begin to put out leadership statements, you are not helpful to our environment. He says a political solution would eventually be sought to the Kanu matter. That is what I think. And Victor, here, while we are talking about this, you're talking about the judicial process. People are not even talking about the real thing to Chukwudi. The real thing is, what is the attitude of the average Southeast person to Kanu eventually becoming free? What level of fence mending would be done in the Southeast for that stage? Because we pray that that stage must be reached. He's a young man, intelligent young man. I don't know how much wisdom he has deployed in the process, but he's intelligent. What the fence mending needed in the Southeast, whenever we get to the level where government could decide to give a political situation to it, is very important. I asked the other time, who really is keeping Kanu in jail? You may be surprised that politicians from that part of Nigeria are saying, if this boy come out, no problem we do, leave him there. You don't know these things. You have to be dispassionate over certain matters in life. But my own is, let there be a solution to this eventually. Because people are drawing parallel comparisons. You sentence a terrorist, a proven terrorist, to 25 years. It doesn't, then somebody who was telling people to behead policemen, kill soldier, he just said it on one radio and all that. This is the man you're, the court does not think like that. They consider so many things. But my own is, let there be a political solution to this, because that is what is going to eventually solve this matter, the way I say it.
Of course.
That's my opinion.
Of course, we need a solution, and as fast as possible. Because this report here about Kwara shutting schools in 5 local government areas over bandit attacks is not a good one at all.
You're looking exactly the way Claire looked 4 days ago. She was practically shedding tears. Yes, it's an ill wind that blows no one any good. But you see, again, I like to be circumspect about these things. Why Kebi? In a few days, Kwara. You might hear another one. It tells you that fifth columnists might be behind these things. Yes. To give somebody a bad name, to give a group of people a bad name. People could say, for instance, since we can't fault him on the economic terrain, it seems to be, let's see how we can show that this government is ineffective. At the end of the day, it's the job of government to go out to make sure that loopholes do not exist for things like this to happen. That's it. You have to have a broad-minded approach to all these things because human beings are capable of anything at all. That's it. I won't be surprised if 3 days from now you hear that another kidnap has happened somewhere.
God forbid. We do not want to hear any of such news.
Okay.
Instead, we want to hear that those that have been
May
abducted
it happen
have
the way
been released.
you have spoken.
Yes,
there's power in the tongue.
Have been released.
According
That's
to
just it.
people of
But
some
you see,
faith.
Chukudi, I like the way that you speak about this issue, and I'm wondering why some leaders will come out and begin to condemn the country in a situation like this. I'm saying that because of this report that says Nigeria really disgraced nation overwhelmed by insecurity, and that's coming from.
Did I see Peter Obi somewhere there?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I read that. I didn't even want to go there.
Is this a time to
Wait a
bring down
minute.
our country?
Wait a minute. You hear, I don't talk about Peter Obi. There are many things I like about Peter Obi. But there are also certain things, if I were strategizing for him in terms of communication, there are things I'll tell him, bros, you get a CBO. You don't have to mimic Trump exactly. You can talk about the things happening in Nigeria, disgraced nation and all that does not have to come in. It's not strategic communication. I didn't even want to go there. I didn't. You see, the good thing for us is that we're trained in the newsroom in such a way that we are made dispassionate. I'm talking about old school journalists because some of the things I now see, I'm sorry, I'm not better than anyone. But there was a way we were. Dele Giwa was Dele Giwa for Nigeria. Yakubu Mohammed was Yakubu Mohammed for Nigeria. Dan Agbese was Dan Agbese for Nigeria. Ray Ekpu was Ray Ekpu for Nigeria. Can you say that for many journalists in the present day? That is the point. That quality of the human being that suggests leadership utterances. People have to learn it. It has nothing to do with having money. It has everything to do with nurturing thinking.
Indeed. And,
nurturing thinking.
This one here talks about Lassa fever deaths hitting 177 as Nigeria records rise in new infections.
You know, the point you want to make is Lassa fever alarm has been on for more than a year now. By now, we should have been able to cap it. By now, what is it we're doing that we shouldn't be doing? And what is it we're not doing that we should be doing? When an illness announces itself, an epidemic as it's becoming now, it means you need solutions to it. Was COVID not tamed? Of course, during the cold, COVID will never leave humanity. But at least there are drugs now to, deal with it. But again, it tells you where our health system is. I was complaining bitterly here over getting a place to do X-ray for somebody because I couldn't get it where it's cheap in the government hospitals. Where are we headed? Where are we headed? What are we allocating to health? Health first. If Keir Starmer is going to fall today, two things will take him down. That's the British Prime Minister. Health and economy. Health and economy. They've handled security, all those things we are still battling with. Health first. We need to put everything in it. Lassa fever should not be walking
and while we are talking health, resident doctors are refuting Labour Ministry's claim of progress, insisting strike continues.
I don't know whether the continuing the strike is a strategic move. That's the second time I'm using strategic this morning. Let them make their points because the health situation is bad. It is bad.
Many thanks, Chukudi.
I just told you of my experience.
Many thanks,
we need to work for Nigeria. The green, white, green beckons to us. Please.
All right. We hope it will get better. We hope that we'll hear good news over the weekend. By the way, Chukudi, have a great weekend.
You too.
See you on Monday.
Things will get better.
Hopefully. All right. So we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll get into our conversation, which is on managing stroke. Stay with us.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Get ready for a special Christmas celebration like no other.
Join us on Sunday, December 7, 2025 at the National Christian Center, Central Business District, Abuja for the FRCN, NTA and Vaughan service of 9 lessons and carols.
Theme of 2025 is
Jesus our Strength.
With a charge from Reverend Dr. William Okoye.
The service of 9 lessons and carols live on FRCN, NTA and Vaughan. Sunday, December 7, 2025
at 3 p.m. Be there
at the National Christian Center, Central Business District, Abuja.
Don't miss the service of 9 lessons and carols live on FRCN, NTA, and Vaughan.
Join us and celebrate the true meaning of Christmas.
My skin is my identity, my strength. It's unique and deserves care made specially for me. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Advanced Care with 5 oils and 5 vitamins. 48-hour nourishment. Helps reduce appearance of stretch marks in just 2 weeks. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Advanced Care for your shade of beautiful.
People, toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Harpic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs. Oh, wow. You can now see that Harpic is better than bleach.
Evie, you look worried. What's going on?
My big cousin in the university might have to drop out of school. He can't afford his school fees.
Oh no, that's not fair. Wait!
What is it, Tomiwa?
I remember my dad talking about something called Nail Fund. He said it could help university students pay their school fees.
Nail Fund? What is that?
Hey, Captain Excellence! Do you also know about Nail Fund?
Absolutely, Tomiwa. Nail Fund is a federal government initiative that aims to provide financial assistance to students pursuing higher education. Nail Fund not only gives money for school fees, but even school allowances, called stipends. It's the government's way of keeping their promise that no child will be left behind.
Really? You mean this Tinubu government?
Yes, now. You see, Nail Fund is a government loan that helps you pay for school, and you only start paying it back later, little by little.
Ha! It's a loan. Doesn't that mean my big cousin will be swimming in debt?
Not exactly. First, this loan comes with no interest. You only start paying back when you get a job. Even then, it will be just a tiny bit at a time.
My dad says it's just like what they do in other countries like America.
Wow! This is a great idea!
See? With a Nail Fund, everyone can go to school even if you don't have money. Look at those smiles.
Wow! That's amazing! I am going to tell my big cousin right now.
Remember, Nail Fund is here to help every young Nigerian get the education they deserve. No child should be left behind.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And just before we go into our conversation on stroke, let's take this background report.
A stroke or brain attack occurs when blood flows to part of the brain and is interrupted by either a blockage or a blood vessel bursting. The lack of blood and oxygen can cause brain cells to become damaged or die, leading to lasting brain damage, disability, or even death. Managing and preventing stroke involves lifestyle changes and managing risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Key preventive measures according to medical experts include eating a balanced diet, regular exercise, quitting negative habits like smoking and alcohol, as well as maintaining a healthy weight. For those who have already had a stroke, long-term management by relevant medical expert is crucial. However, in most cases, stroke don't just happen without warning signs like sudden numbness, weakness, difficulty in speaking, trouble seeing with one or both eyes, and severe headache, among others. How can a stroke be prevented? What are the daily habits that lead to stroke? And what are the basic signs of impending stroke? These and more are some of the questions that will set tune for our discussion on Good Morning Nigeria, as our guests are already seated for the conversation.
Many thanks, Ibrahim Bello Gunda, for that background report. Now, time to introduce our guests that have joined us for this conversation on preventing and managing stroke. It's a pleasure to have with us Professor Rufai Yusuf Ahmed. He is the Registrar and CEO of Medical Rehabilitation Therapies Board. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
All right. Also present here is Dr. Isaac Akuma Igboja, Public Health Specialist. Many thanks, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And from our Maiduguri studio, let me introduce Dr. Musa Gazama, who is a consultant neurologist and stroke physician. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Nigerians, thank you for having me.
Okay, let's begin this conversation. I'd like to start with Dr. Isaac Igboja. What is it about stroke that makes it such an important ailment to talk about?
Okay, the reason why stroke is very important is because it happens suddenly, and it is usually a medical emergency.
Okay.
The events that lead to stroke are usually very sudden, and when stroke occurs, it is very difficult and sometimes impossible to reverse it. And that's why stroke is very important. Let me start by explaining the sequence of events. First of all, we all know that blood is needed in every part of our bodies. And why is blood needed? Because the oxygen which every cell needs is dissolved inside the blood when we breathe in. And so when the blood flows, it flows with that oxygen and supplies the oxygen to every cell of the body. And in this case, we are talking of the cells of the brain. So when the blood flows into the brain and brings oxygen, then the cells in the brain will function well. However, if for any reason the blood flow to the brain is either blocked or is totally cut off or is partially blocked, then the cells that are supposed to be recipient of that blood that contains oxygen will suffer. They will be damaged, they will die. And when the cells die, especially of the brain, it means that the person is literally dead too. So now you would ask, what causes blockage? It's like a pipe of water. If this is my house and that's your house, and the pipe of water that comes to your house flows through my house, there could be a blockage before my house, in my house, or between my house and your house, or even when it gets to your house. When that happens, the pressure of water in your house will be so low that you will not have enough water, right? Secondly, another thing could happen. There could be a burst of the pipe before my house, when the water flowed to my house, and when it got past my house on the way to your house, or when it is in your house. Either way, there will be shortage of water in your house. This is the good analogy we can look at. So when the blood supply to the brain is not either sufficient or totally absent due to blockage, which we call ischemia, which is sometimes transient. Transient meaning it is only for a short time, only for a temporal period. It's not permanent. if there's a clot of blood, for example, flowing into the brain or a part of brain, and it lodges in a small vessel, and therefore the flow is blocked, it can be dislodged. It can continue flowing again. But meanwhile, between the time that it is blocked and when it is open to continue again, there may be damage to the cells. Okay, it can block totally. And you ask me, what are the things that cause the blockage? Two things. One is the blood itself when it clots. Two, there could be plaques from fat. Usually when the blood vessel, which is like a pipe of water that I described earlier, is open and blood is flowing through it, as a result of many things, which I'm going to get into in a few minutes, the hole in the blood vessel can become narrower and narrower. And sometimes you would ask, what is causing it to be narrow? The food we eat, for example, things like the fats, cholesterol that we eat, make the blood vessels become narrow. And therefore, the pressure that goes into that blood vessel with the blood, which contains oxygen, will be less sometimes and will increase because if the source of the pressure is the same, but the opening of the vessel is narrow, it will increase the pressure. And that could lead to when the blood vessel will burst. And when it bursts, in the case of the stroke that we're talking about, the two things would happen. Not only are the cells that are supposed to be recipients of that blood starved of their food, the presence of blood on the brain, especially the inside covering of the brain, would cause irritation. And the person will become very angry, very irritated, will experience a lot of pain. And this is one of the reasons why we say that when stroke occurs, it is a sudden and unpredictable event. In fact, recently there was a case in a bank. A young man went to the bank and he was filling his teller to go and get his money. And all of a sudden he said, and people were wondering, what's wrong with the young man? And when they went to him, they calmed him down. What was the story? Stroke. If you were to do an autopsy on that man, he died eventually. If you were to do an autopsy on that man, you would find that the blood vessel that supplied blood to his brain, a particular part of the brain, had busted, and blood had oozed out on the tissue.
Places.
And that was what was causing irritation. And that's why he was screaming. Now, I have already explained that there are two ways that the cells of the body, of the brain, could die: by starving it of blood, which contains oxygen, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you ask me, what are the reasons why anybody would have a blockage or a burst of the blood vessel? There are many reasons. Sometimes it is because of hypertension. Sometimes it's because of tumor in the brain, from which there could be a plaque. Sometimes it is our diet that we eat, fats, especially the type of oil that we use. In Nigeria, there's a language that women in particular use. They say oil that sleeps, especially vegetable oil. You leave oil for a few minutes, by the time you come back, it has congealed. It has turned into fat.
And it can be woken up. Dr. Boja, I'd like to pause you at this point.
Yes.
Let's try to wake up oil on this other side.
Yes.
So let your oil sleep a little. All right. Very detailed, explanation from Dr. Boja. I mean, the layman watching would understand, the way he has broken it down for us, and I would like you to take that cue. We do not want a lot of medical jargons that will be very difficult for us to understand. By the way, we'd like our viewers to send us questions, comments, whatever it is as regards this topic. The number is on the screen. We would be waiting to read either your text message or a WhatsApp message. Thank you very much. Prof, he said stroke is sudden, and then he said the risk factors, hypertension, the food we eat and all. And I'm thinking hypertension is not a sudden ailment. So why is stroke sudden, right? So it means stroke can be prevented, can it?
Yes, it can.
So let's hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you very much. We talked about risk factors. So you have sedentary lifestyle, you have obesity. So someone that has weight according to their height that's more than, there's a calculation that they do to say that someone is obese because of their weight. So these things need to be prevented because they are risk factors for having hypertension or having stroke. He has mentioned the issues of blockage. He has mentioned the issue of hypertension, of course. One of the things that can be used to prevent this is exercise. Because sedentary lifestyle, if you are physically active, you oppose that. And also the issue of obesity. If you do exercises, you reduce the weight. And another thing that's very important with exercise is that even the hypertension can be reduced with exercise. Researchers have shown that if you do exercise that is moderate in intensity, so meaning not walking slowly, not running, maybe jogging, or when you are using the bicycle ergometer or treadmill, if it is a moderate intensity exercise, and you do that for at least 30 minutes in a day, for at least 3 or 4 days in a week, it can lead into a reduction in hypertension, the blood pressure. Usually when you do it immediately after, that's what is called the acute effect, meaning you are going to have a little increase in blood pressure, a little. But if you do that frequently, very often, at the end of the day, the exercise, researchers have shown that it leads into reduction in the blood pressure. Another thing that exercise does is the blockage, because when you do exercises, it increases what is called the high-density lipoprotein, which is a cholesterol that he's mentioned, that is a good cholesterol that takes care of the bad cholesterol in the body. The bad cholesterol is usually called the low-density lipoprotein, and exercises can reduce the level of the low-density lipoprotein. How does it do that? When you do exercises, the body consumes carbohydrate. But when there is no carbohydrate in the body, and you get the stage that you need nutrients for that activity to continue, it now begins to take away the fat in the body and also the cholesterol. And that way you'll be able to reduce that cholesterol that is in the body. Of course, there are other ways of reducing it, taking drugs. I'm not going to go into that because that's a medical field. But also, another very important thing is the issue of nutritionist prescribing what food you take. All the food that we have, they are important for the body because they build our body, they help us. But when you take it in excess, it now leads into problems like, for example, deposition of the cholesterol that is bad for the body, and therefore the drug can reduce the cholesterol, but exercise can do that. But very importantly, people should not be sedentary. They should do activities. And as I've said, what activity will help you to be able to reduce all these risk factors? Moderate intensity for at least 30 minutes, and that should be done for 3 or 4 days in a week.
You talked about food. So are there the kinds of food that we can eat that prevent stroke?
Well, I think this is the field of a nutritionist. I'm a physiotherapist. But he has mentioned a number of foods that bring in that cholesterol. And you avoid eating them in excess. For example, the type of oil that he has mentioned, meat that is fatty, because you can have meat that has the flesh, but you can also have a type of meat that is fatty around it. That fatty food usually will have that cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, and you can't take into your body. Eating of butter, so you put butter in a bread, it's okay, but eating it in excess will also have that deposition of cholesterol in your body.
Eggs?
Eggs also. So it's okay to eat egg because it's good, but if you eat it in excess also, so someone that wants to put in many eggs and eat it at a time and continue to do that frequently. And that's why I say it's important for nutritionists to be able to let us know how many of such things can we eat that it will build our body, but without giving us that high cholesterol that can block our vessels.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. Let's get now to Dr. Musa Gazama, who is joining us from Maiduguri. Now, I'd like to ask, Doctor, when a stroke is about to happen, what are the very first signs that people can look out for? Some people also talk about the golden hour in managing stroke. Tell us about it.
Okay, thank you once again. The first signs that you pick when somebody is about having stroke, somebody has had stroke, can it be fast or fast test? The fast is an acronym that represents what happens initially. The F is facial weakness or drooping. The A is arm weakness. The S is speech impairment. The patient may not be able to speak, or the person may speak but may not comprehend. He may speak jargons, or he cannot speak and he cannot comprehend, depending on which part of the brain is affected. Then the T is time, because time is brain, time is neuron, brain needs time. Besides this, there are other things to look for. Weakness of the leg on the same side of on the same side of weakness affecting the arm and the face. We could have sensory abnormality, numbness, tingling sensation, paresthesias, or you could have visual loss, etc. The other acronym mostly used in America is B-FAST. B is balance loss, because there's a particular part of the brain that controls balance. So if you become deficient of blood supply, you may not be able to walk properly. Then the E is eye vision loss. You may just have sudden visual loss, and that is stroke. You may not have to have weaknesses with the visual loss for you to say it is stroke. In other words, I'm saying that somebody can still have stroke without him having weakness. The clinical presentation of stroke depends on which part of the brain that is affected. That is that about signs of stroke. When you talk about golden hour, the golden hour is considered is the time you intervene, because worldwide the guideline now stimulate in the treatment of stroke, as the other speaker have spoken. Stroke can be either blockage of blood vessels, or it can result from rupture of blood vessels. You talk of golden hour when you are talking about blockage of blood vessels, probably by a thrombus, as the case may be. It's a time within which you can use clot-busting drugs to dissolve this clot. Mind you, these clot-busting drugs can also cause bleed beyond certain period of time. So that is why that golden hour, depending on which guideline you are using. Some say 3 hours, some say 4.5 hours, but there's an extent window now, up to 9 hours. So for me as a neurologist, if somebody comes with stroke, within these 9 hours, I should be able to salvage this person using medical intervention, that is clot-busting drugs. In any case, if the blood vessel affected is a large blood vessels, medical intervention alone will not take care of it. You have to go further in what we call thrombectomy. You either remove the cloth or you dissolve it using catheter. That's the field of interventional radiologist. So that again Beyond 1 day, 24 hours, you cannot do that. So golden hour basically is the time best at which you can administer your clot-busting drugs, or you can intervene using thrombectomy. Unfortunately, most of our patients come outside these golden hours, and there's nothing we can do other than to manage complications. As I speak to you now, in Maiduguri, we can thrombolize. If anybody can come within 9 hours, you should be thrombolized. I just came back from UK. We have never kept a patient beyond 2 days with stroke in the 3 months I spent in UK. Most of them come minutes, not up to even 4 hours. So the moment you thrombolize, after 24 hours, you repeat neuroimaging, there's no bleed. We discharge them. 80% resolution of the focal neurological deficit. So that golden hour, or extend period now for us, since most of our patients hardly come within that 4.5 hours. They come at least 9 hours if you want intervention. Otherwise, when you come, the only thing we can do is to look for complications, prevent complications, and if there are complications, we treat and we watch you. But if you come within that hyperacute state, it is curable. I've seen it, and we can do it. It's no rocket science. Thank you.
Zama, I would like to stay with you because of this golden hour that you have talked about. What do you think are the challenges here? Because Dr. Egboja talked about someone in a bank who had an experience. So I'm wondering why the person didn't get to a hospital, nearby, within this golden hour. What really are the issues for us in this climate that, makes it difficult for us to access medical facilities, or if you like, see a physician within the hour?
Our major challenge is lack of awareness about what stroke is. If you know the effect of having stroke, you will definitely seek medical attention immediately. Awareness is lacking. There's ignorance. Let me just give you something, say something about it. You see, for neurologists, stroke is a serious matter because it's the most common life-threatening neurological disorder that the second most common cause of neurological death and leading cause of disability worldwide. 18 million people develop stroke annually, out of which 6 die. 6 million die from stroke. And out this 6 million, 89% of stroke death and disability are in low-income countries. So we must look at this, very important. Then 6 million people develop permanent disability. 6 million people recover fully. Now, 1 out of every 4 individuals above the age of 25 will develop stroke in their lifetime. And 1 in 4 people that have stroke will die of stroke every minute. So awareness is lacking because most people don't know that time is brain. See, if you have a stroke, my sister, stroke, the brain has about 200 billion neurons, nerves, for you to function normally as a human being. Following a stroke, 2 million neurons are lost. It translates into about 12 kilometer fiber length of neuron per minute. That's why in that acronym, FAST, time is brain, time is neuron, brain is time. People should know that for each minute you spend with stroke without seeking medical intervention, you lose about 12 kilometer fiber length of your neurons. So awareness is not there. And even if people come with stroke, the acute management of stroke is very expensive. The world now recommends tenecteplase for people that present with acute stroke as after you have done neuroimaging, either CT or brain imaging, MRI, the next thing, if there's no evidence of bleed, you thrombolize, you dissolve that clot, either medically or you combine. Studies show the combination of both drug dissolving and the removal of clot is better than any of them alone. These things are expensive. Tenectre place, the last time I saw it in Lagos, we used it in Lagos, was about 800,000 naira. Altar place is 1.something million. How many of such people can afford it? But in UK, it is free. The investigation is free. The drugs are free. And that's why you keep seeing people. If you see how stroke patients troop to the hospital, you'll be scared. It's more than malaria there. So the acute care is expensive. I will emphasize more on prevention, which is not only better, but is cheaper. By emphasizing the importance of healthy lifestyle and then psychosocial factors like stress. It's also a cause of stroke. In those risk factors my co-speaker spoke about, there are important ones that are relevant to us in West Africa following certain studies. 11 of them. If we can concentrate on those ones, we can prevent stroke and save people. But it's better not to have stroke than to manage stroke. And what are those things? Talking of healthy diet, what does it really mean? Not eating vegetable adequately or regularly is a risk factor for stroke. And not only that, if you are hypertensive and you are not eating leafy vegetable, it doubles your risk of having hypertension. What does it take to get green leafy vegetable and eat? Then salt, table salt, adding salt to your food on table, in other words, uncooked salt, is a risk factor for stroke. Stress that we don't consider to be anything, either at work or at home, has been shown in that study that was conducted in Ghana and 15 states in Nigeria to be a risk factor for stroke. So we have to look at those 11 risk factors that does not require financial implication to be able to curtail the burden of stroke. We should know there are novel risk factors. There are other traditional risk factors, but there's regional variation. We come to talk of hypertension, diabetes, and all these things. What are the regional risk factors that was identified in West Africa? And mind you, West Africa has the highest incidence, prevalence, and fatality from stroke. So we want to get it right. Since treatment is expensive, we have to look at that risk factors. Like in my hospital now, the management have decided to open TIA clinic, separate from neurological clinic. If you wait for them to have stroke before you do that, which most of them don't have the fund to receive the standard treatment, why not prevent them? So in order, we are starting our TIA clinic separate from neurology because we want, if somebody has abnormal neurological symptom, you should see a neurologist. In UK, the guidelines, within 24 hours, anybody has any sudden onset of abnormal neurological function or symptoms, you should see a neurologist for confirmation of diagnosis and evaluation. Because you'll be evaluated. When you are evaluated, and the risk factor is that you'll be scored. Depending on the score, there are medication you'll be given. And that will prevent. Because following TIA, 20% of those victims will develop stroke in 90 days. After those patients, about 10% will develop stroke within 2 days. And 17%, 9 to 17%, will develop stroke within 90 days. So by identifying people that have either typical and atypical symptoms of TIA and evaluating them appropriately to place them on medication will go a long way in curtailing the burden of stroke in our country, besides educating people on healthy lifestyle and the risk factors. So thank you. I believe I've answered your question. Let me not take most of the time because...
Fantastic. You have answered my question. But please, I would like you to make some clarification. You said TIA. What is TIA? Then secondly, you said that a lot of people outside, I think you said the UK, right? The cases of stroke is very high. Why is that? If you want to compare the number of cases that you experience in the UK and Nigeria, is it minimal here? Then you talked about lack of awareness on the part of, Nigerians. In the health facilities, would you say that we have adequate infrastructure and personnel that are skilled? Is it possible that this late presentation is also as a result of patients, going to health facilities that do not have either the trained personnel to attend to the patient on time, or there's no medication, to treat the patient, such that there's a waste of time, maybe in a primary healthcare center, for example, and, before they are referred, it becomes too late. Is that also a challenge?
Yeah, delayed presentation is a challenge, and it could be as a result of several factors. Cultural practices, accessibility to health facilities, and the technical know-how of what to do. A lot of these private, other peripheral health centers may not have a neurologist, and the appropriate management will not be instituted. So therefore, we encourage people that once somebody has an abnormal neurological function or symptoms, he should be referred to where there is a neurologist, not later than immediately. So education, we need to raise awareness about the effect or the impact of stroke on us. As for the cases in UK and here, well, you cannot just use in-hospital presentation to decide, because there everything is free. Once you just have symptoms, there is a number, you call 999, and ambulance will come and bring you. Your investigation, no matter how expensive it is free. Then the medication, the next place is free. Admission, feeding, everything. So people are well informed there. They go there. There are a lot of programs for them there. And they have these stroke associations where the survivors help in raising awareness about the risk factors, about the treatment, prevention of strokes. So these are things we are looking at that we cannot do it alone. The media also has a role. I think the major thing is lack of awareness about what stroke is. People need to be aware that even if you have it, if you don't present, even if you come to the hospital but you don't present on time, we may end up just managing complications. And we have disabilities. Unfortunately, most of our stroke patients don't know they have rights. There's Global Stroke Bill of Rights. A stroke patient has a right to good diagnosis, to the best stroke care, meaning including diagnostic, appropriate and timely diagnosis, to be seen by a specialist, to be given the best and appropriate medication at the right time, irrespective of his gender, age, stroke severity, culture, or where he stays. He has a right to be informed about what has happened to him and what the outcome could be so that he could be prepared. And he has a right to be supported throughout the period of recovery, including joining him to social support groups where stroke survivors will relate with them. So it is not just hospital thing. Even the media people need to come into it, probably create a platform where experts, specialists can come and talk about certain things. Just to talk about risk factors of stroke will take us more than 5 hours. We should go into detail and look at which one is appropriate to us. Going to talk of the medical treatment. As I said earlier on, I do emphasize that the medic is better not to have stroke. than to think of treating it. So that's why emphasis should be on prevention of what? Stroke. By what? Looking at those 11 leading risk factors that are relevant or have novel association with stroke etiology in West Africa. Those 11 factors. Then the next thing is for those that have developed transient ischemic at abnormal focal neurological symptoms of sudden onset, that correspond to the FAST acronym or to BFAST acronym. Once you have those things, rush to the hospital. Usually TIA resolves with TIA lasts for 10 minutes and resolve within 30 minutes. When you find these symptoms extending beyond 1 hour, rush to the hospital. It may be stroke in evolution or it may be TIA. If the symptom is improving, it is TIA. You will just be evaluated and placed on the appropriate medication depending on what they found out. But if it is worsening or it is persistent for more than an hour, you have to be in the hospital because you have neuroimaging. If there's no bleeding, you'll be thrombolized. But I said that thrombectomy, the clot busting drug, as of 2023, in Lagos, it was 800,000 for injection, for the one that is recommended currently. But the other place that used to be used is about 1.5 million. So how many people can afford that? So is it not better to put your eye on the preventive, the risk factors, the modifiable risk factors? Because I said 90% of stroke globally are attributed to the modifiable risk factors that most of my other speakers spoke about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gazaba. Now, we have some messages that have come in, which we'll quickly take. This one is from Umar. I once had an ischemia, even though my cholesterol levels, HDL, LDL, are within limits, normal blood pressure, and no heart-related issue. I am also an athlete. What other factors could have caused it? Is protein C deficiency a culprit? Okay, this one is from Melchizedek Idoko. He said, do ischemic and hemorrhagic stroke present with different symptoms? How can a doctor differentiate them? Another is from Ose. Good morning, doctor. Can someone who has never had a high blood pressure have stroke? And from Aderi Bigbe, has body size or weight got anything to do with having stroke? I have a cousin with small body, yet developed stroke. And this next one comes from Umu Asma from Edo. I just want to thank you all for educating us on the topic. May Allah protect us all from this deadly sickness. And from Maria, good morning. I am glued to the topic on stroke. My brother had stroke earlier in the year. The clot was solved, which led to an implosion in his brain. We lost him 2 weeks after that. What could have caused it? A very good program. A stroke patient, this one reads, I would like to have Dr. Musa Gazama's GSM number, and it's from Adetunji Suleiman. And finally from me, my name is Mustafa from Sokoto. My question goes to the doctor in Maiduguri. So many times patients go to the hospital in time, but the doctor didn't attend to them in time, especially the nurses. And as a result of this, so many people lose their lives. Dr. Boja, I'd like to respond to some of this, please.
Wow. I hope I remember as many as I can. Let me try. Somebody asked a question that he or she or the relative is not overweight.
Yes, and yet had stroke.
And yet had stroke. Because there are many other risk factors apart from being overweight.
Is stroke hereditary?
Yes. Well, no. I know where the person is coming from. If you have high cholesterol, right, it is possible that when you have children, your children could also have high cholesterol. That's where the person is coming from. But those are serious medical issues. Let's go to the basics of what we should do to prevent stroke and to manage stroke so that people can live. So let's go to the next one. Somebody said, talked about a clot
Yes, which was solved.
Yeah, which
but
was...
yet it had to... it ruptured, I think, something in the brain.
No,
Yeah.
I think what he was saying is the clot was not necessarily attributed to... I mean, the blockage was not attributed to clot. Could there be something else?
Because the clot was solved.
Yes. Yes, there could be something else. Plaque, for example, could be the something else. It doesn't necessarily have to be the clot or blood. It could be a plaque from fat, which is like a debris. It's like pieces of fat that are in the blood vessel. When they fall off into the blood and they are flowing with the blood, sometimes when they pass a blood vessel that is big enough to accommodate them, there's no problem. But when they get to the one that is too small, that's where they lodge. And that's where they are blocked. And any tissue that is supplied by that particular blood vessel is now deprived of blood supply, which carries the oxygen. And then, like we are trying to explain, it depends on which part of the brain is involved. The brain is like area A, area B, area C, area D, and so on. Just like we have Wuse 1 and 2 and 3
zones.
in Abuja. So if it is the part that controls speech, you would be unable to speak or unable to comprehend speech. If it is the part that controls vision, eye, you'll be unable to see. If it is the part that controls motion, you'll be unable to move. That's why sometimes you have drooping or paralysis of the face and of the hand and of the limbs. So it depends on which part of the brain is affected and how much it is affected. There's another question about...
there are quite a number of them. And someone was asking if someone who has never had high blood pressure would have stroke.
Yes. If you have never... That's a very important question. If you have never had high blood pressure, don't think that you are not a risk, that you don't have risk factor for stroke. Because high blood pressure is only one of many. For example, if you are somebody who is sedentary, you don't do anything, you are big, fat, you give a lot of work to your heart because of your size. You eat anything that comes your way. Pomo, you consume. Eba, anything, but you don't eat vegetable. You don't do any exercise. So the blood does not flow well around your body. And let me take a unique case. Supposing you have a tumor, especially tumor in the brain, that could cause a plaque that will block a blood vessel that can lead to a stroke. It's a rare case, but it's a possibility. So what I'm trying to say is there are many risk factors for stroke. So high blood pressure is only one. Lifestyle that we talk about is another. Now, let me come to this lifestyle issue because it's very important in answering those questions. If you do smoke, you have a risk of having stroke. If you take alcohol excessively, I don't advise anybody to take alcohol, but if you must take, let it be in moderation. Let it be little quantity at a time, not too much alcohol. And by the way, there are grades of alcohol. There are light alcohol and heavy alcohol. The light ones are beer, which has 5 to 7% alcohol.
There's whiskey.
And wine, which has between 7 and 12.
11, 12, yeah.
Maximum 15% alcohol. Then when you talk of whiskey, brandy, which we call kai, ogogoro, and so on, some of them are 40% and even 60% alcohol. Those are terribly dangerous. Now, apart from diet and smoking and alcohol that we talk about, I have also mentioned exercise, which all of us have mentioned, especially our colleague from Maiduguri has spent a lot of time talking about exercise also. Now, if for any reason, any of this is your problem, it means that you have a high risk of having a stroke. So you don't need necessarily have to be a patient with hypertension or a patient that is obese, very fat, or a patient that eats a lot of fat, a lot of pomo, has high cholesterol. If you have one and you don't have the other, you are still in trouble. That's the way to put it. So
you
the
have
best
to be free
way,
on all fronts.
the best way is to try to be free on all fronts and from all possibilities.
Is there a medical test that determines that someone
you're
is
at risk,
risk
you know,
of stroke?
closely?
Well, yes. Okay, for example, we talk of hypertension. That is a risk factor. You can check somebody for hypertension. You can check for cholesterol. You can check the type of diet that the person is eating, is taking. If a patient comes to a doctor and is always complaining of tiredness, or one of the questions, before I forget, one of the questions the person asked there is, doctor from Maiduguri also mentioned it. You have a case where you come and complain that sometime this morning, you had a blackout. You were doing something and you had a blackout and suddenly you couldn't see. But after a while you regained consciousness and you were able to see. Or you passed out, you fell down without any reason. Nobody pushed you. You were before that healthy. Those are all reasons why you should check. Something is going on somewhere. Something is wrong somewhere. What we are trying to say is there are so many reasons why someone could have a stroke, to a point where we need to check ourselves one after the other. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all the 11 risk factors that Dr. mentioned about from Maiduguri, but at least let's highlight those ones that are very common in our environment here. One of the questions that she asked was, compared to UK, why is it that we here in West Africa, especially in Nigeria, have more cases of stroke? The answer to that is, one, we have a lot of stress here that they don't have. Two, we are not as informed as they are there. If, for example, I was in UK or in US, and I woke up in the morning and I had a blackout, or you and I now, as we are talking, we are now aware that this could be a symptom of stroke, you would go for help. But here we don't. And even when you know that you have a problem, getting from where you are to the hospital could be a problem. And when you get to the hospital, getting the treatment that you need immediately within the time frame that could solve your problem could be a problem. And getting the person that knows what could be the problem, and therefore getting the right diagnosis and the right treatment could also be a problem.
I've not read mine.
Now, let me mention something that is key here, based on what our colleague from Maiduguri talked. This is one of the reasons why it is very important for us to have health insurance. The reason why all these things he mentioned, the UK are free, is that they are free, in quote. Somebody paid for it.
All right, many
You
thanks.
paid for it gradually.
Many thanks, Dr.
Through
Ibuja.
insurance. So we need insurance here.
Yeah, insurance that works. We have insurance. It's insurance that works and captures, some of these ailments. Let's read some more messages that I have, and then we'll go to Dr. Gadzama to respond to, the questions. This one says, I'm Haruna Abdurrahman from Abuja. Please, I want to ask the doctors, I am 6.2 feet tall, 36 years old, and I weigh 90 kg. Is that okay? Another one says, good morning all. I'm having a stroke right now. Please, what can I do? Someone says, good morning crew. Master Okwe Sunday, watching live from Onitsha. I have a serious accident. A solar panel hit my head and my legs and hands are malfunctioning. Can this lead to a stroke? I do sports regularly but eat randomly and in excess. Would it still be a cause of stroke? Someone says, good morning. The topic is apt and educative. Keep it up. Judith Nohwange from Benue State. Someone said, please, sir, I'm I am Elder Olufemi from Ota, Ogun State. I'm a stroke patient since 2020 and I've gone to different hospitals, including General Hospital, but still I am not yet free. Please, sir, what can I do to be totally free? OC from Abakaliki says, please, what are the symptoms of stroke and how does it last before it strikes? Good morning, Victor and Henry. My name is Benjamin Kainji. I always enjoy your morning conversation. My question is, at the age of 60, what type of meat should we eat? And finally, this one says, good morning. My name is Binta Abdullahi. What are the 11 risk factors of stroke? So let's get to Dr. Gatzama now. I'd like you to respond to some of those questions.
By the way, someone wants his number if he would, I don't know.
Thank you very much for asking this question. It means people are paying attention. There are questions that were asked in the previous one. I will combine all of them. You may not have hypertension and have stroke. There is a new thing now, novel risk factors apart from the traditional modifiable risk factors, where things like infection, neuro-COVID-19, retroviral infections, some bacterial infections have been identified as a risk factors. In all our discussion about the risk factors for stroke, we did not talk about drugs. There are drugs. So it may not be hypertension if you are abusing drugs. As common as cough syrup. People that abuse cough, they come down with stroke because they are vasoconstrictors. There are agents inside that can constrict the blood vessel and reduce blood supply to a particular part of the brain. Women that are on oral contraceptive pills that contain more than 50 micrograms of estrogen are at very high risk of having stroke. There are genetic strokes. Stroke can be transmitted in the family. Caracil, Hans, Millers. I don't want to go into that. But when you see stroke running in a particular family, either first generation, second generation, there are just genetic causes of stroke. Then I want to draw our attention that based on evidence-based practice, stroke should not only be managed in the hospital, but in a dedicated part of the hospital called stroke center. That has been shown to reduce mortality and improve functional outcome. Because in the stroke center, everything we do there is based on guideline. For instance, within 60 minutes of arrival, patients should be thrombolized, according to National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. Not everybody knows that. And besides that, I told you just about the Bill of Rights of stroke patients, that they have right to appropriate treatment, coordinated management. A stroke patient should have a multidisciplinary coordinated team approach, including, depending on the center. Like in our own now, we've just constituted, yet to be inaugurated. You have a neurologist, you have a stroke nurse. Some of these hospitals in Nigeria, most of our nurses are general nurses. They are not specialized. They are not specialized. So it's not every nurse that knows exactly what to do to a stroke patient. And let me tell you, in the studies that was done in Nigeria, particularly in Maiduguri, about what kills patients, and even in Lagos by Ogun et al. And Ojini, it shows that really most of our patients don't really die from stroke. They die from complications of stroke. And the commonest complication is aspiration pneumonia. So by right, every stroke patient that presents to you should test his swallow test. You should do swallow test within 2 hours. Because you know he may aspirate. Evidence studies have shown that aspiration is the common test. Because the way the limbs are weak, that's how the muscles of swallowing are weak or the tongue is weak. So the person may not be able to guide what he is swallowing into the stomach, rather it to enter the respiratory tract. And that is the commonest cause of death in our patient. In other words, stroke patients should be managed in a dedicated stroke center and by coordinated multidisciplinary team. It's not a one-thing thing. You need a physical rehabilitation or neurorehabilitation, physiotherapists, you need occupational therapists, you need speech and language therapists for people that have speech problem and swallowing problem. The neurology is only there to make the diagnosis and then prescribe the appropriate thing to be done. We are more concerned with the hyperacute state. specifically the first 9 hours after stroke. Then identify complications and treat them. Then the acute and subacute phase. But late subacute and then the chronic stage, most is medical rehabilitation, social support, psychological support, and all those things. So treatment of stroke patients should be by multidisciplinary team dedicated with neuropharmacists, social welfare worker. At least in other centers, they put cardiologists, they put neuro. Like our stroke center is second to none in this country, not in terms of size, but organization. Is the only stroke center I know in Nigeria that has acute stroke unit in it under one roof with neuroradiology, with rehabilitation, physical rehabilitation, and then neurosurgery in the same complex with MRI, is dedicated MRI, CT, and radiology staffs. 5 of us have gone to UK for training, sponsored by the chief medical director. We are all back to face stroke. So you see, it's not just everybody that you see in the hospital that knows much than you do in stroke if he is not trained. So there has to be training and retraining of people. Then I forgot, the questions are many. The questions are many. I cannot remember.
Thank you. We'll remind you after the break. Let's take a break now. Of course, we'll remind you when we return. Stay with us. The conversation continues.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Get ready for a special Christmas celebration like no other.
Join us on Sunday, December 7, 2025 at the National Christian Center, Central Business District, Abuja for the FRCN, NTA and Vaughan service of 9 lessons and carols.
Theme of 2025 is
Jesus our Strength.
With a charge from Reverend Dr. William Okoye.
The service of 9 lessons and carols live on FRCN, NTA and Vaughan. Sunday, December 7, 2025
at 3 p.m. Be there
at the National Christian Center, Central Business District, Abuja.
Don't miss the service of 9 lessons and carols live on FRCN, NTA, and Vaughan.
Join us and celebrate the true meaning of Christmas.
Let's believe in ourselves. Let's have the right attitude. We've got all it takes to get there. Let's look inwards and revive all our infrastructures and galvanize our human and material resources. Nigerians, believe in yourselves. Believe we can succeed.
Nigeria, believe. Powered by National Orientation Agency.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. We're talking about preventing and managing stroke. We have so many questions, and the fear of being able to take it is really very high. But let's get back to our guests that are still with us. Very educative program, if you have been following from the beginning. I'd like to get to Professor now, before we get to Dr. Igboja and, of course, Dr. Gadzama to talk about other issues. But, you know, Prof, I'm coming to you because you manage people who have had stroke, right? So speak to us about, you know, some of the measures that could be taken to help the people recover fully.
Thank you very much. I think it's important that we have mentioned that the most important thing is to prevent, and we have discussed the issue of prevention. When someone has it, that's the acute stage, where you are going to have the issue of the blockage or the issue of the bursting, and you handle that. But because the brain controls activities that we do, daily living, when we move, it's the brain that sends impulses to the muscles to contract, and movement takes place. If we see, it is the brain that receives information about what we see, and that's how we see, because the brain has received the information. Apart from that, when we speak, the brain sends impulses to the muscles of the mouth for us to speak. There are also many other important things that have to do with the activities of daily living. Because of rehabilitation, there's what is called the ICF, International Classification of Function. That it's not just about the disease or the injury, but how does it affect the way you do your activities of daily living? How does it affect the way you participate in the environment? Can you be able to go to work? Can you be able to drive a car? Can you be able to write? Can you be able to do many of the activities that are very important to people? So since the brain controls all those activities, the movements, the speech, the vision, and other important things also, the issues of sensory impulses that come from the body. If I'm standing and someone touches me, I'm going to turn around and speak to the person. It's part of interaction. If there is fire close to me, a candle, and my hand touches it, I'm going to take my hand away. If I can't be able to feel that sensation, the fire is going to burn me. So these are all very important things. Now we have phones. There's the issue of vibration, because there's a vibration sense also. So if you don't have the vibration sense in your body, when the phone vibrates, if it's not on the ringing mode, you can't even hear that it's there. And therefore, you can't pick it up and you can't make a call. So these are all very important things that have to do with interactions in daily activities. So what physiotherapists and other medical rehabilitation professionals do, occupational therapists, speech therapists, and audiologists, is to ensure that the injury or the disease is not just what is being treated, but the person's ability to go back to the activities of daily living is also important. Something that's important to understand for people to know the consistency in doing rehabilitation is what is called neuroplasticity. So plasticity is seen as the characteristics of an object that is weak enough to yield, but strong enough not to yield all at once. What does this mean? When you have an injury in the brain, just as we explained about pathology, the cells in the brain die. But nature has made it in such a way that there are redundant cells in the brain, just like a car that has 4 tires. But in the boot, there's a spare tire. If one bursts, all you need to do is to go to the boot, you remove it, and you put it there. So that is how the brain works. So that if those cells that we are talking about die, there is a mechanism in which you can be able to activate another cell in the brain for that activity that has been lost to now begin to come up. So that is what is called motor learning. I'll give another example. In a path to a village, if a tree falls on the path, it's very clear. But if you want to create another path, because you can't remove the tree, you want to create another path through the bushes. If you walk once in that path, it's not going to be clear. Maybe you will need to walk 100 or 200 times before it's cleared. And therefore, the activities that are involved in rehabilitation must be repetitive. So you are given an activity to do, and you do it once or 10 times. At the end of the day, the movement does not come back. Now, what do? We look at movement. For example, motor, that's what's called motor, the movement. If someone has a stroke and they can't move their limb, either the hand or the leg, at the beginning, there's no movement at all, especially in a severe case of stroke. Now, what we do, for example, mirror therapy. You have a mirror. If you look into the mirror and you put your hand that is not affected, so this is the affected hand, and you look into the mirror, you move the hand that is not affected, and you assume the hand in the mirror because there will be reflection. And the hand will look as if it's the hand that is affected. The brain thinks that the hand that is affected is moving. And you trick the brain into thinking that movement is happening, and you find out that those cells that I'm talking about, redundant cells, will now begin to be activated, and you begin to have some movement coming back. When the movement begins to come back, usually the literature says even 10 degrees of movement in the fingers, you can now begin to do what is called task-oriented training. That is where you now begin to ask people, the activity that is important to you, I want to drink coffee. Now reach out to the cup, pick it up, and drink. If you do it several times, so patients sometimes, they feel it's too taxful. Let me just leave it. If you don't do it several times, the pathway in the brain that needs to be created for the movement to come back will not be facilitated. That is very important that you do it consistently and repeatedly, as the physiotherapist or occupational therapist has asked you to do, and that is how you are going to now reactivate the cells of the brain that are going to now begin to help you to do those activities.
No, clearly the work of therapists cannot be overemphasized in managing a stroke patient, whether it is a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, or even speech therapist. But do we have sufficient depth of professionals in this area in Nigeria?
Not at all. In the whole of Nigeria, the Medical Rehabilitation Therapists Board has registered not up to 10,000 physiotherapists. And that's from the inception, about 30 years ago till now. Many have left the country. Many have left the country because of the Japa syndrome. Some have died. Of course, some have retired. For occupational therapists, speech therapists, audiologists, and prosthetics and orthotics, we have not registered up to 500 in all of them. And therefore,
over 30 years?
Over 30
500?
years. 500. Because there are no institutions.
What's the challenge?
There are no institutions that are offering the courses.
So
we need to have many institutions begin to have that. For example, occupational therapy, it's only OAU and UNIMED in Ondo that are offering the course to the level of graduation. Few have started, the new federal universities have started, but only 2 or 3. For prosthetics and orthotics, only Owerri and UNIMED in Ondo. For speech therapy, it's only UNIMED in Ondo that is currently offering the course at the level of graduation. So we need more institutions across the country to start and also increase the number, especially by mounting postgraduate programs. Because you can begin to have so many programs all over the country, but if you don't have people that have postgraduate degrees to go there and teach, you are going to have programs that are not going to run and have the quality that is required.
Many thanks, Prof. I'd like to get to Dr. Gadzama. As we begin to round up the conversation, unfortunately, time is fast spent, but so much to be said. But speak to us about some of the misconceptions about stroke. Some people think that stroke is not a medical ailment, it's a spiritual concern. And you talked about late presentation, so maybe that could be why medical facility is not sought when someone presents with stroke. That's one. Then 2, someone here sent a message and says that stroke can be treated at home. I do not understand what that means, but it says, I'll just quickly read it. They say stroke is not treated in the hospital and many people treat it at home. What can be done about this? That's coming from Christy. So speak to us really and correct some of the myths and misconceptions about stroke.
Thank you very much. You see, not every focal neurological deficit is stroke. Just like the person that sent you a message that he had something fell on his head and he cannot move his limbs. Is this stroke or this? It could be either of these. One, he could have developed sudden weakness that made him to fall to hit his head as a result of stroke. Or he fell down and unfortunately hit his head, so he had traumatic brain injury, now giving him these weaknesses. Probably has cerebrovascular disease, not cerebrovascular accident. Cerebrovascular disease is any condition that affects this brain vessels, either narrowing, atherosclerosis, either subdural hematoma. They are cerebrovascular disease. And even stroke itself is the umbrella term. The cerebrovascular disease can cover any of these if you are not sure. But when you do neuroimaging and you find evidence of what? Blockage or rupture of blood vessels, that's when this is cerebrovascular accident. So that may be his case. And the other person said, is there any way you know between bleeding and blockage? Yes, there's WHO pathological classification. I don't want to go into the details. But it is not absolutely reliable, simply because usually bleed in the brain is associated with loss of consciousness, while infarction is not. But it's not absolutely true like that. A small bleed may behave like blockage. There will not be loss of consciousness, but you are bleeding internally. So you just think that this is, and you have weakness, you just think that this is what? Blockage. And you go and give the person vasopressin, you will kill the person. And a large blockage of blood vessels will present what? As bleed in the brain. So you go and say, okay, this man has loss of consciousness because most likely the stroke is due to a bleed. You will not give him medication that will open the blood vessels. You kill this patient. The best thing is any person that will come with focal neurological deficit should have neuroimaging for you to say, yes, this is blockage, this is rupture. As for the myth, as I said earlier on, not every focal weakness is stroke. Stroke, we are talking of the diagnosis of stroke. It could be clinical, it could be pathological, it could be etiological, or anatomic. So you can have stroke-like syndrome. If blood vessel is involved, that's why in the definition there's sudden focal neurological. You are most likely looking, their clinical diagnosis is stroke because it is vascular in origin. That sudden onset of abnormal neurological symptom connotes vascular implication, and that is stroke. But if you do not have vascular implication, it is not sudden, it is gradual. We call it stroke mimics. So that there are things like cerebral abscess, collection of pus in the brain, like tumor, like my colleague said, and a lot of infections can just occupy space and compress on blood vessels or adjacent soft tissues in the brain. They present with weakness, they present as if they have stroke. And people that have seizure, focal seizure involving one part of the brain, may just be having seizure. After some time, that particular part will become weak. Even after regaining consciousness, we call it horse palsy. So these are things probably they think they treat at home. But when there is involvement of a blood vessels, well, I don't know how you treat it at home. But even if you treat it, you should know that having stroke is another big risk factor for having another stroke. And the next stroke that will come will be worse than the initial one. That is why in your late subacute management of stroke or in the long-term management of stroke, there's room for secondary prevention. That's prevention of reoccurrence, where the patient will be given the appropriate medication depending on the comorbid condition and the cause of the stroke. So even if you think you can manage it at home, if it is really stroke, just know that the patient still have to go to the hospital so that you go and evaluate him and then prevent secondary reoccurrence. I don't know if I have answered all the questions.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Gazama. You have tried. I guess the questions won't stop coming, but I'm moved to take a number of questions too because they are coming from viewers and they are everyday situations. Now, this first one is from Collins. He said that his question is, his son is always hitting his head, and now he's 3 years. Should I be scared for his brain? And good morning. This is from Omololu. Does persistent headache have anything to do with stroke? Does drinking plenty water have any risk factor, or is it an advantage over stroke? Another one talks about, please, what can one do to improve the speech of a stroke patient? I think that has been dealt with on many fronts here. And another is talking about, this from Muiwa, what can be done to reduce the cost of treatment of stroke in Nigeria? It's something we didn't really talk about. And what should be the cause of someone that is having sharp hotness under his feet, as if to say the person is stepping on hot charcoal? From Stephen in Abuja here. And finally, my blood pressure used to be 150/70, but yesterday it jumped to 169/80. And I'm afraid, what can I do to let it come down? From Anthony in
All right.
Abo.
All right, let me just add some that I have here, just a
okay.
few. I'll pick some. This one says, well done to NTA for providing good resource persons to talk about this topic. My question is, can low sugar level cause stroke? Another one says, I'm an epileptic patient. Despite taking my drugs regularly, I still have seizures. Please, what can I do? Also, can this lead to stroke because of the falling? Another one says, thank you for this enlightenment on stroke. My question is, what is the place of low-dose aspirin or clopidogrel? I'm not sure if I got that correct, in preventing stroke. James Peter from Abuja sent that. This one says, we are made to understand from the onset that high blood pressure is usually a condition in adulthood. Why is it so rampant now among youths, particularly young pregnant ladies? That's from Abdullahi Adokwe in Lafia. I think this.
You have one more.
I have a lot of messages, but no
time.
time. So, doctor, respond to the few that you can.
Okay, the person whose child is always hitting his head.
And at that's 3 years.
And 3 years. That sounds like that child has autism, and I would advise that the child is taken to the doctor for evaluation and treatment. That's not a case to live at home. It could get to a point where hitting the head will damage the brain. It's not a minor issue. The person who also has seizures too is a related question.
Epilepsy.
Epilepsy. Yes, epilepsy itself is not the same as stroke. They are different.
But can it lead to stroke?
Yes. If, for example, you hit your head, and you frequently hit your head, and there's a plaque that falls from somewhere as a result of clot or plaque and blocks a blood vessel in the brain. That could lead to
But is there a cure for epilepsy itself? So what stops the falling?
Oh, okay. Yes, that's another question that he asked. That he has been taking his drug, but he's not yet
Still
cured.
having seizures.
Yes. That means that he needs further evaluation. Either that the drug he's taking is not the proper one, or that the diagnosis in the first place was not correct, or that he needs to be re-evaluated. Even when you're on treatment, you need to be re-evaluated. So this person who has epilepsy should please see his doctor or another doctor for second opinion.
Can low blood sugar cause stroke?
Low blood pressure?
Low blood sugar, yes.
Low sugar level.
Low sugar level cause stroke.
What about low blood pressure?
Low blood pressure. No, it shouldn't. Low sugar. It is too much sugar that we are advised against as a risk factor for stroke, not too little. And low blood pressure. I'm thinking of how remotely it could, but it doesn't sound like something I would worry about. If you have low blood pressure, for example, for this patient, and I'm wondering why this patient who has low blood pressure is thinking of stroke, I would advise that this person goes to the hospital for evaluation. Maybe what he is describing is different from what he really has.
And then two people are talking about high blood pressure that won't come down. One of them is currently taking HIV medications. Can it lead to stroke?
Yes. You see, some medications may induce high blood pressure. You have to be careful. And even when you have high blood pressure, it is always necessary for your doctor to be monitoring you and to be re-evaluating you and to moderate the drug that you take. Sometimes they will change a drug, and sometimes they will reduce the dose. Sometimes they may increase the dose. So
place.
if you are hypertensive and you are taking your drugs, but you are not getting better, it's a reason for you to go to the doctor for evaluation.
Just a final comment from Prof. In 30 seconds, if you may.
Well, I think we have mentioned a lot of things about prevention. It's one thing to say these things are important, but it's another thing to follow suit and do the actions that will help with the actual prevention. Exactly. So I think I want to encourage Nigerians to practice what they have been advised to practice. Another thing is important for intergovernmental collaboration. So the agencies in health and information to be able to work together. NOA is the National Orientation Agency. All this information need to be put together so that the Ministry of Information can now, through their agencies, to be able to push it out to all the communities.
Thank you.
Because how many people will listen to this?
Dr. Gadzama, please, 30 seconds. Your final words.
Thank you very much. But before I conclude, low blood pressure can cause stroke, watershed infarct, can cause stroke. Then hypoglycemia is not a cause of stroke, it's a differential of stroke because history would have clarified, but it can be considered, but it doesn't cause stroke. Then having said all we have said, I think we need government commitment in terms of funding for further research and training and policies that will subsidize these novel medications for the treatment of acute stroke. Then our public health intervention should strategize and should be comprehensive and pragmatic in targeting these leading risk factors we have highlighted earlier. By so doing, I believe we can curtail the burden of stroke. Thank you very much.
Dr. Musa Gadzama, consultant neurologist and stroke physician. It was indeed nice having you on the program. Many thanks for sharing your insights with us. Professor Rufai Yusuf Ahmed, Registrar and CEO, Medical Rehabilitation Therapies Board. Thank you so much for being our guest. And of course, Dr. Isaac Akuma Igboja, Public Health Specialist. It was indeed a pleasure to have you again. Thank you for being our guest today. So that's our package on Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. Take care of your health. It's very important. Me and Ray John, live a lot on the NTA.
And I am Victor Azu. Thank God it's Friday.